All right, welcome into the Junior and Senior Nothing But Sports podcast. I'm going to be picking every week 0 game, both FBS and FCS. There's only 7 games total for Saturday, so I'm going to be picking all of those games. I know most of these games, the teams that I'm going to be talking about here, most of you guys probably won't even know exist, but I think it's important that we give these teams the proper respect that they deserve, since they're going to be the teams that we see coming up on Saturday before we head into week 1, which is going to be the biggest opening week for college football. I'm also going to be looking at the spreads of these games. I'm going to try not to... I'm personally just picking who I think is going to win. As far as the spreads go, I just use that kind of as a barometer for how I think the games are going to go and how the media and the bettors believe the game's going to go. And also for people who are going to bet or looking to place bets on this game or on these games, I'll kind of give you a guide as to, what you want to do for these games that we're about to see. So, I'm going to pick these games in order of the way that they're going to be presented to us. As far as time, there's 7 games. We're going to pick all 7 of these games. The first game is number 10 Florida State against Georgia Tech. I believe Florida State's going to win this game. I'm still not sure. I'm not too sold on DJU at quarterback, the transfer from Oregon State and of Clemson. He's been a guy that starts out fine and doesn't really progress as the season goes on. So I'm mostly concerned about that. But I believe that defensively they look to be one of the better defensive teams in the country. So I'm hoping that trend will continue for them. But again, as far as quarterback, which is the most important position in sports, I'm not too sure if he's going to be the man to lead them to the ultimate success of getting to the college football playoff, which they were screwed of last year. No question about it. I will not take any arguments from anyone that suggests otherwise. They were robbed of the playoff last year. They should have been in. They did what they were supposed to do. They beat every team on their schedule, and they beat the last couple of teams without their starting quarterback. And we've seen teams get put in the playoff with injuries, especially the quarterback before. So I thought that was an egregious error. Now, on Florida State's behalf, I do think the fact that they did not play in that bowl game, all their starters did not play in that bowl game against Georgia, I thought that was a misfire. I believe that they should have played in that game for no other reason than to prove that, hey, we should have been in the playoff, or at least we can compete with a team like Georgia, whether we had our backup in or not, because I believe that defense would have been up to the task. So the score, that 63-3 score that in that bowl game, I believe was, people are going to say whatever they want to say about it, but we all know that score would have not been the same had their starters actually played in the game. Come on, let's be real. Not saying that Florida State would have won, who knows, but that score, they ran up the score with Georgia's starters in the game, and Florida State was playing against 3rd and 4th string guys. That's just the fact of the matter. So with that being said, I do have Florida State winning. I think this is a type of game that will likely start out probably at halftime. It's a 17-10 type game where Georgia Tech is playing the best football early, and I think something's going to happen as far as one of those little funky turnovers, a weird fumble that gets bounced towards Florida State's way, or a tip pick or something like that happens that gets Florida State really revved up and going in the second half. And I believe that will push Florida State over the edge. So I'm going to have Florida State winning 31-16. I think their defense, again, is going to be one of the best in the country, which is why I don't think in the second half Georgia Tech's going to be able to score with them. I like their new offense, the way they're trying to spread things out a little more with Brent Key as their coach. And for some reason, Georgia Tech, when they're facing ranked teams, they play really well. But they did also lose to Bowling Green last year, a MAC team. So they had a really weird year last year. Of course, they won that game against Miami where Mario Cristobal decided not to take a knee with a minute left, and they ended up losing on a Hail Mary after fumbling the ball, which was just a wild sequence. But that always seems to happen in the ACC for some reason. I remember a couple of years ago when Jacksonville State went down to Tallahassee and beat Florida State on a last-second Hail Mary as well. So weird things happen to ACC teams for whatever reason, which is a reason why they get doubted a lot, and you only see one team in the top 10 for the ACC in Florida State. So they're going to have to show improve, and I think this will be a win where we say they took care of business. The defense showed that they were up to par. I'm not sure about their offense, and that's the only thing. They have Toa Feely, their running back, who I liked last year. He came on strong at the end. I think he's going to be really good. But for me, the receiving core, which is a little new, and of course their quarterback, who hasn't impressed me much his first 2 years in college football. So I'm hoping that he progresses with Mike Norvell as head coach. But I'm not sure at this moment. But I think they will do enough to stifle this Georgia Tech defense, because I don't trust their defense at all, especially their rushing defense. They were letting people run all over them last year. So hopefully they have it retooled enough. But overall, I think this will be, usually these week 0 games, some of them are really close. A lot of these week 0 games are close, especially last year. That was a great week 0 last year. That Northwestern Nebraska game was really bad, but it was still a close game. So I expect this game to be close for the most part. I just think eventually Florida State will get another touchdown or so late in the fourth quarter, and they will pass through and get a convincing win. I think it'll be convincing enough to where people say, okay, they deserve that number 10 ranking. They took care of business with the Georgia Tech team who, again, when they play ranked teams, for whatever reason, they play their best ball. So I think they're going to give their best effort early. And I think the later the game gets, that defense will wear down the offensive line of Georgia Tech. And they will not, Haynes King will not be able to get rid of the football enough for them to put points on the board. So I'm going to take Florida State to win this game. Like I said, would I be surprised if Georgia Tech wins? No, only because of the fact of how they've done against top 25 teams, especially ACC teams that have been ranked. They have been almost masterful in that way. So I would not be surprised if they win this game by a field goal, but I don't expect that. I wouldn't go out of my way to predict that upset quite yet. But I do believe, like I said, it's going to be a good game. They're favored by 10, Florida State is, and I have them winning 31-16, so I do have them covering the spread. So if you're going to pick Florida State against the spread, I'm not confident that it will be close enough to cover. And with only 10 points, which is really not that many points, that kind of makes me a little nervous based on how they have the line. But like I said, I think they will put a late touchdown on the board. I think it will be like a 24-16 game. It looks close. It's an 8-point game, and they put a late touchdown on the board to put their stamp on the game, thus giving them the cover. So I'll take Florida State to cover and to win the football game and get ready for they're going to have to play Memphis in a couple weeks. So, and that's gonna be a very interesting game because a lot of pundits have Memphis making the college football playoff out of the Americans. So That'll be a great test for Memphis, of course, but also a nice little test, non-conference test for Florida State. After facing a team like Georgia Tech, how will their minds be coming from across the country in Ireland? So expect a lot of Florida State fans to be in Ireland. Georgia Tech's been there before, but I expect Florida State to come out and try to prove that last year was last year. This year is a whole different scenario. So I have them winning. The next game that's going to be on, I'm going to start with the 3 o'clock and go back up to the 2:30. The next game will be Montana State at New Mexico. I have Montana State going on the road and winning this game. If you don't know, Montana State is an FCS school. And I honestly wish they would show more. I hope they do show more FCS games this season, because I actually enjoy watching the FCS games. And I think on any given week, the FCS games are better than, a lot of the regular FBS team games. And a lot of those teams are out west, so they play late. So if you're not staying up to watch those games, you'll miss them. But I definitely enjoy the FCS. I just wish they would show those games a little more on national TV when they have a chance, because I think that would really help boost the FCS, but also give us some more great college football to watch. Montana State, last year they made the semifinal or the quarterfinal, if I'm not mistaken, against North Dakota State. They would end up losing to North Dakota State. And North Dakota State has had their number in the FCS playoffs the last couple of years, where they haven't been able to get over that hump. But they have been a consistent team within the last half decade, making the playoffs, getting close, but not being able to get to the final step. But I have them beating New Mexico because New Mexico, they have a new coach in Bronco Mendenhall, who's been in Virginia, who I think was at Boise State, if I'm not mistaken. Could be wrong, but he was definitely at Virginia for a long time. And he had Virginia. They had some ups and downs, but they had some really good years. And I just think it's going to take him a couple of years to get New Mexico where he wants it. They haven't really been a good, solid football team in a very long time. They've had their ups and downs here and there. They'll have a good year here and there, but they haven't won anything significant in about 10 years. So I think it's going to take him a while to get the kind of players that he wants. So maybe in 3 years, New Mexico is a formidable opponent. But I think Montana State's going to win, and I actually think they're going to win in like a 38-10 type game, where I just think they come in, they're not afraid of New Mexico. They don't care if they're an FBS team. They don't care if it's on the road. To be quite honest with you, there'll probably be a lot of Montana State fans in the stands in that game, because they'll be traveling pretty well. Because they know a team like the Bobcats, they're not afraid of group of 5 teams, especially teams like New Mexico, who are bringing in a new coach and a new staff. They're not going to be afraid to go in there. They're going to treat New Mexico like they're an FCS, one of those FCS teams in their division. And I think they will be able to run all over them. I love their quarterback, Melo. I got a chance to watch him a little bit last year. I think he's a really good quarterback. I would like to see him take another step this year. And this will be a great game for him to exercise those demons from last year, because I really thought he missed an opportunity to extend that game and win it. Of course, they missed the field goal, but I thought he could have played a tad bit better in that North Dakota State game last year. But I expect him to come out and exercise some demons, and unfortunately, it's going to be against the Lobos. I have them winning, like I said, 38-10. The spread for that game is 13.5, which again is relatively low. I actually thought it was higher. I believe it was higher about a half a month ago, but I think it might have dropped. So that's about 2 touchdowns. Like I said, I have them 38-10, so I have them covering the spread as well. So I'm going to bank on. That's probably the most confident spread I believe in, is Montana State beating New Mexico. That's likely the most confident spread that I have. So I'm going to stick with that and believe in Montana State. I think they're going to make a deep playoff run again this year in the FCS. And we will see if that experience gets them to a championship game. The next game is a game that I have a lot of interest in because it's one of my Louisiana teams. We have McNeese State at Tarleton State. This game will be at 2:30 on ESPN2, so it will be on national television, which I'm excited about. McNeese State, their FCS run hasn't been the greatest. You know, they made 2 FCS championship games a while ago. They lost both of them. But they have been to the FCS playoffs a good number of times, and they've won the Southland Conference more than a handful of times. So they know what it's like to be in a playoff situation. Tarleton State's kind of new as far as becoming a relevant team. They moved up from Division II to FCS Division I, so they're still kind of getting used to that. So I expect I'm actually going to go with Tarleton State to win because they're at home and it's their opener. I expect a packed crowd out there in Stevensville, Texas. I really believe that we're going to be looking at a really good game. This will probably be one of the better games of the afternoon. But I just believe right now in what Tarleton State's doing. In Division II, they made a lot of Division II playoff appearances. So, like I said, they know as well what it feels like to be in the playoffs or in a playoff scenario. So they will be well versed in that. So I do have them winning at home over my McNeese State Cowboys this year. I have that score being 27-24. I don't see a spread for this game, so I'm not sure why, but I guess just because it's an FCS matchup, so there is no spread that I can see. But I think it's a 3-point game. They win on the last-second field goal. The next game at 6, North Alabama at Southeastern Missouri. Another FCS on FCS matchup. That'll be on ESPN at 6. These are 2 teams that, well, at least in North Alabama's case, they've been to the playoff a couple times, FCS playoff. I believe Southeast Missouri has here or there, but these are 2 teams that I have not seen very much of. But I'm going to go with the team that I think is better and the team that I think has been more consistent, and that being North Alabama. Again, this is a game that could be very close, 31-28 type of game. And I think North Alabama goes on the road and gets the job done that evening. The next game that we have on our schedule, we'll go back to the FBS, and we will talk about a 7 o'clock game on CBS Sports Network, that being SMU at Nevada. Now, after the Florida State-Georgia Tech game, this will probably be the most mainstreamed important game of the weekend. A lot of people are high on SMU moving to the ACC with the pieces they have on offense, and Preston Stone, their quarterback, who I think could be a top 10 quarterback by the end of the season. And Rhett Lashley and company going to the ACC, having an opportunity to make some noise this year. They're going to have to go to a Nevada team who really has not been good the last couple of years, especially since Jay Norvell left and went to Colorado State. They really have not been good. So, at home, I expect it to be a really good to decent crowd. The line is SMU with 26 points. Now, I think SMU is going to win this game because they're a better team. They have better pieces, more depth. I believe their offense, at the end of the day, I believe this will be a game where they score at least 40 points. So I have them winning probably a 45-20 type game. Because Nevada's at home in their opener, I believe SMU defensively will kind of sleepwalk through the first half, but I think they'll clamp down in the second half. And force a couple of turnovers to SMU's way, and that'll rev Preston Stone up enough to have them going up and down the field. So I have them winning 45-20, which is the 25 points, and the spread is 26. So that would literally give Nevada the spread by 1 point. That's how thin that line would be. So if you're gonna bet the SMU Nevada game, I would likely, it's gonna be tough because it's only 1 point that I have it by. So it's kind of a coin flip for me. I do believe SMU is going to win the game by a blowout margin, but the question is, how big of a margin will it be? I just don't know if it's going to be enough by a point at least, for Nevada or SMU to cover the spread. So that is a big number. It's a really big number, but I think it's a really big number because of the offensive production of SMU and an experienced quarterback as such as Preston Stone. So I do have Nevada covering by a point, but I wouldn't take that to the bank betting wise, because it's, like I said, I have it by a thin margin. So I would definitely be careful with that, because it's going to be a really tight spread to bet up against. You'll be probably on pins and needles with that game to figure out how that's going to roll. Back to the FCS side, we have the 6:30 game, prime time on ABC. The FCS kickoff, we have FAMU going to Norfolk State, an HBCU opener, as they do every year. Norfolk State hasn't been that good. They haven't made an HBCU national championship appearance in a couple of years. FAMU, really, I think people don't recognize what FAMU has done at the FCS level. They were the first team to win the FCS national championship ever when they beat UMass. So more likely than not, they're going to get the nod and the automatic bid as far as getting into the FCS playoffs, because how it works is, I didn't realize this, but the Ivy League, they do not play any postseason games. So they, because of academic reasons or whatever the case, they do not subject themselves to at-large bids into the FCS championship playoffs. So they just play their regular season, and that's all. So they don't have a say in it. As far as the MEAC and SWAC go, they recognize the HBCU national championship game as their championship game. So it basically works like they can accept an at-large bid, but they cannot play in the HBCU national championship game. So they kind of have to have allegiance to one or the other. FAMU has really been the only team that has consistently been in the FCS playoff, and not been in the HBCU national championship. More likely than not, they have taken the bid, which is great to see, because I would like to see more HBCU teams in the FCS playoff and try to win the whole thing. But I also respect the fact that they do an all-black national championship, something that's ours, and it's really good. Most of the time, it is a pretty good game. It's also the game that Dion took Jackson State to 2 years in a row. Now, they didn't win it, but I remember that second game. I believe it was against, I could be wrong, I believe it was against Alcorn, but I might be getting that wrong. I'll have to go back and look at it, but that was a really good game, and that was really the game where we saw Travis Hunter emerge, but they lost in overtime. So I expect this to be a hard-fought game. I expect it to be a 31-28 type field goal game, and I expect FAMU to win. Again, they've been the most consistent HBCU team. They've won at least 16 conference titles. And like you said, they were the first national championship team in FCS history. And they've gotten a lot of at-large bids. So, and they did win the HBCU national championship last year. So I expect them to come back with fire and go to Norfolk and get it done. So, to be quite honest with you, as far as FCS goes, I have 3 road teams out of the 4 that I've named so far winning, as crazy as that is. But that's just how the matchups are shaking up so far. And really, like I said, I had SMU beating Nevada, so really the only home team I have winning is Tarleton State. And I'm shaky about that because I really wanted to pick my Louisiana team to win, but I'm trying to be objective here. So the last game is a weird one. Delaware State at Hawaii. The spread for this game is 40.5. Now, like I said, as it comes to FCS teams, we don't get to see them a lot. But one thing I know is Delaware teams have been in the college football playoff and have been in college football or FCS championship tournament games. Delaware State, I'm not sure how they're going to be this season or if they will make the playoff. But 40.5 is a little ridiculous. I think Delaware State's going to cover that easily. I don't know how Hawaii's going to be this year. Offensively, they look to be pretty good, but defensively, I don't think they have enough pieces. So I believe this is a game, and this game will be started at about 1 o'clock in the morning, over for our time. For as far as actual time, I don't know what actual time it'll be over there, but yeah, it'll be about 1 in the morning when that game airs. And that's the one thing about Hawaii games is usually when they're at home, their games don't start or air till about 12 or 1 anyway. But they're never televised unless they're on the road somewhere. So I wish they would do that more, because I would love to stay up at 2, 3 in the morning watching Hawaii football, because they're one of the more fun teams to watch in college football. So I have Hawaii winning the game off of pure offense and being at home. And also Delaware State had some weird situation where they had a bus issue with getting to their airport, and they were delayed, and I believe they missed their flight to Hawaii, so they had to get another one, I believe. So it was a wild thing to where they pushed the game back about an hour or 2 or so. So like I said, when that game is played in Hawaii, it'll be a good, decent time. But for us, if they decide to showcase that game, it won't be until about 1 to 2 in the morning. So, if anybody gets to watch it, it'll be a fun game. I have them winning 35-21. So like I said, I have Delaware State easily covering the spread. I think they're going to come out hot and angry. Not that it was their fault, but I believe they will come out. I believe a lot of people will have Hawaii just purely blowing them out because of that incident, and I think they will use that as fuel and motivation to come out and play well. So I do think they will play well enough to cover at 40.5, but it will not be enough to win the game. So that'll be the last game of the night. Those are the 7 games to kick off this Saturday, this first Saturday of college football. From here on out, we will have college football all the way until January 20th, which will be the national championship game. So I'm really excited. I am really excited to get this season started. The next episode I will do later on will be my conference championship predictions and my college football playoff predictions. I will predict every conference championship game, all 9 of them, and then I will pick my bracket all the way up to my national champion. So I'm going to have that podcast up and ready next. I just wanted to siphon off these 2 podcasts and make them separate to make these videos a little bit shorter so you guys can check them out. And like I said, if you're going to bet on the games, I gave you a little information that you can use. But I just picked the game straight up. I'm not really going to bet on these games because I just want to watch it. And I'm terrible at betting anyway. So I hope everyone enjoys this first college football Saturday, because I know I will. College Game Day will be live from Ireland at 8 o'clock. So be ready, up and ready for that. And then enjoy your college football Saturday. I will tune in to you guys as far as the next podcast sometime later today. And I will have that up and ready so you can see my full predictions, which will be set in stone. I will not change those predictions once I make them on this podcast. But that's all for now. And thank you guys for listening in to the Junior and Senior Nothing But Sports podcast.